Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, thank you for tuning in to Just a Walk of Life. I'm your host, Mickey, like the mouse, but without the E. And on today's episode, a bit of housekeeping and an embarrassing story. This is the pilot episode of Just a Walk of Life, something that I can only call a passion project of mine. Since it's the first episode, I think it's fair to kind of set the stage a bit, kind of talk about our expectations. Just like as if we were going to start a relationship, everything needs to be on the paper and understood. This is where the full transparency comes into play. I need to tell you, confess to you, don't hurt me. I am a 100% certified chump when it comes to what this is. I have zero experience or background knowledge in content creation, brand management, or social media influencing. This is a learning experience for myself, and hopefully for those of you who see this as such. I'm allowing myself to be the fool, allowing myself the grace to make fun of myself, because that's how you learn. This is a middle finger to who I used to be, and to those of you out there right now who are sitting on an idea that you just don't know how to start. You don't have to know, you just have to start. You'll figure it out along the way. So this passion project podcast hybrid is something I came up with because I want to archive what I'm going to now officially coin as personal experiences from unique perspectives. I am a huge proponent of the idea that everyone is a walking wealth of knowledge, and I believe that all the experiences that you may have or that you have had will culminate into who you are at present time. That's not something that we should be ashamed of. So try this one on for size. You don't hate a person. You just don't understand the experiences that made them who they are, and that's why you are so frustrated. I'll let that sink in. Yeah, the logic here is the more understanding we have for somebody, the more we might be willing to accept somebody's walk of life. So now, what kind of content can you be expecting? Well, I'll tell you right off the bat, 3,005%, we are digging into emotions. I love talking about feelings. I think we all have them for a reason. And so the best thing you can do for yourself is to just kind of understand whenever you feel a certain way. I think that's a skill that we are lacking quite a bit in modern society. And so, hey, if I can kind of model what it's like asking all these whys and how comes, that might be something of use for you all. I'll also talk business and dating, my two favorite subjects in the world. I'm sure everybody's two favorite subjects in the world. I mean, outside of pooping, eating, and sleeping, I'd argue most of life is just your business and your romantic escapades until you die. I'll also try to give you my takes on events that I find interesting. They will be from current times and past times. It's just a matter of how I get exposed to them. But I'll let you know now, if you're a nutjob political person, we love you, but get out of here. We don't do that kind of stuff here. This is for human discourse of civil manner. I do know that some of my views will not be taken as favorably as some other views that I might be sharing. That's absolutely fine. I'm also aware that as a human being, I'm also very vulnerable to biases. And in the case that in the case that they show very well, you as listeners are more than welcome to point that out, either in the comments or you can yell at me on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me with the handle at justAWOL.outreach. All one word, no spaces. And last but not least, I vow to share revelations that I come across from all these observations that I make when I play the game of life that we all play. I tend to create much more internal dialogue than most, is what I've found. But I think that I try to be as fair as possible, and so I'll let you pick my brain when I share them. Now, no operation will ever be anything without a sense of direction. And so this is where we talk about our goals. For this project of mine, I have two. The first one is quite simply to chronicle experiences that I've had. These can be things that I've seen, stories from my life, but also stories of others in my life that have affected me to a degree, however small. I want to be able to look back and see over time how my views changed, how they morphed, and how I grew as a person. And, the extra benefit from this is when I'm 60 or 70 and I have grandkids, they can kind of get a glimpse of who I was and what times were kind of like before they even existed. And if I'm so unfortunate as to get dementia or anything, because, let's be real, have you seen 2020? It should probably be of use there too. The second goal, and arguably just as important, is I want to entertain. I'll keep you company because sometimes the world is a lonely place. If I can entertain you and talk to you, accompany you on your commute to work or maybe your lunch break or when you're crying in bed at night all alone, thanks for the invitation. I try to be a fun person, and you would wonder, could you even have enough fun or too much fun? But it's quite a slippery slope, so we might want to put that out for now. With that said, those other goals, but I guess auxiliary goals would kind of be, I would be elated if anything I produced touched you literally and metaphorically and not physically, because we didn't talk about consent, that you can find some nuggets of truth and practicality in these stories and that they might help you in your journey of life. That would be the bee's knees. If my thoughts can inspire you or maybe even challenge you in your views, or if I can expose you to any sort of newness or even add value in any shape or form, like perhaps maybe now you have a fool to ridicule on your next date in 2 hours because you are not socially responsible, so be it. I'm glad I brought something to you. I'm not interested in blowing up and being big, but if I do pog up, that'd be quite cool. If it really gets to the point, I'm more than willing. I'm actually looking forward to some guests, some co-hosts, because bantering is so much more enjoyable than my monologue. I'm aware. And in the very, very far distant future, so far that you might need a UFO to get to, if I can get some merch going on, that will probably be the peak of my existence. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking towards. That's kind of the idyllic future in my eyes. But I understand that there is a future. And that's not where we're at right now. We're in the present. And speaking of present, I presently have to tell you about my embarrassing story. So allow me to transport you back into time. This is the first year of college for me. It is the winter quarter. And so that means that everything is kind of settled. For those of you who have been, you know that the first quarter of every freshman's life is very exciting. It's full of energy, and everyone's willing to make friends and such and such. Well, after the first quarter, what tends to happen is people get their grades for the previous fall quarter, and they realize that it's not all just fun and games, that they're a student first, and they can have fun after midterms and other exams. This also means that the weather is absolutely beautiful for walking late at night, and that's what I was doing. So it's late at night and I'm out on a walk. I'm walking with a hallmate at the time. She's a very nice young lady from mainland China, and she's the type to be very proper. I think she was raised on fine literature, like the ancient text. She would grew up on that kind of stuff. I imagine her life at home was probably, she would have bookshelves full of just these extremely well-known texts that all the scholars would refer to, right? Just the fact that she was there was kind of like, I can't imagine what kind of the culture shock that you have been through and are continuing to experience as you spend more and more time in the States. But in a way, that was probably one of my favorite things about her, was that she embraced this kind of difference. She never really let it get in the way. Language barriers and whatnot, sure, they were there, they were present, but she was always asking questions to get more understanding. She would never let the fact that she didn't understand shy her away. It was always more like, hey, I don't understand what you're saying, but what does it mean, right? It was very commendable, I think, of her, the trait. To add more context, right? Her father is, I think, a top dog lawyer back in mainland China. And she had told me that she is to follow his footsteps. She's supposed to be the next runner up. She's supposed to take over the air, take over the family business. But what was cool was that he allowed her the grace to experience America. I think that's a very telltale sign about what her family values are, when despite having most of the things aligned, the fact that he would still allow his daughter to leave the country and go halfway across the world and kind of experience this culture that she otherwise never would have needed to experience. She would have been just fine without knowing. But he still let it happen. And I think that's awesome. She studied film. She had some media films major. I forget exactly which one, which was cool because she had told me that that's what she was interested in. That's the kind of stuff that she likes. Despite her future being already written, she still took it upon herself to learn something that she enjoyed. So we're walking around the campus, just trying to make casual conversation, trying to get to know you. Well, for those of you who are unaware, at some point with an acquaintance who you know nothing about and have very little in common in terms of pop culture to reference, it gets a little bit difficult to talk about a variety of things. So naturally, the conversation fell back onto, hey, what are some cultural differences that, you notice and sticks out to you as something that you will never forget about America? And so I forget all the minutia when it comes to the conversation, but the one thing that she had left me with that I will probably never forget ever, as long as I live, is that she kind of gave me one of those reality strikes back moments. I'm sure most of you listeners have probably experienced this one time or another. The type of thing that gives you more perspective when it comes to how you live your life, right? Something that might kind of alter the way you fundamentally want to carry yourself and conduct yourself from day-to-day life. And so the conversation kind of steered along the way of, hey, what are you doing for winter break? And so she mentioned that she was going to go back home and visit her uncle, which she was really excited to do. So I was trying to lean into that and ask, why? Like, what's so cool about an uncle, right? Because we all have that one cool uncle who does everything. But what she told me was the thing that made my jaw drop, probably below the earth's surface. So she said that she was looking forward to seeing her brother. So for those of you who understand how family trees work, trust me, you're not alone. I was also very confused. But the reality was that because of the one-child policy that was put into play during those times, or I guess in recent times at that point, she had a biological brother that she would have to have lost. Again, I don't remember the specifics. Don't ask me why it was one child or the other. I don't know. But I do remember that she said that it was her biological brother that she was going to lose, except her uncle stepped in and said, I will say that he is my biological son so that he doesn't have to disappear into the ether. So because of her uncle saying that her brother is his son, both of them could essentially live to see the next day and to see each other. Yeah, I mean, as you would imagine, I was pretty taken aback. I had never once thought about that thing because it's not something you think about often. It's so easy to live life kind of in your own circle, right? And say, well, that thing's never going to affect me, so I'm just not going to pay any mind to it. Now, don't get me wrong. This was not something that she said with malice. She wasn't looking for sympathy or empathy for that matter. She's not the type of person. But it was just very striking to me the way she said it in such a matter-of-fact tone. It's just something that will always heal my outlook on life. And it also made me feel, a little bit closer to her. Like I knew something that was more intimate about her and, it felt good. Now you might be listening and, wondering, well, when is this getting embarrassing? Well, I want to just preface the real embarrassing part by saying, there's nothing more embarrassing than to make yourself a fool in front of somebody that you barely know. And guess who did what? Yes, I did that. So we're on the way back because it just got too dang cold to be out. One of those things about winter, you know. So on the way back, we're crossing the bridge back into the dormitory community on campus, and I see it. You know, it's just right there. I step over the bridge. I turn my head maybe 45 degrees to the left, and I just see this little raccoon sitting so cutely in the grass. Now, believe me, now when I see a raccoon, I run for the hills, right? I see the disease and death, you know, all the rabies, and I just got to get out of there. But at the time, all that was flashing through my head were all these cute raccoon videos that I've seen on the interwebs. You know the type I'm talking about. There's the one with the raccoon in the tutu. There's the one with eating the grapes. And my personal favorite, the one washing its cotton candy in the puddle of water. I'll link them in the description if you haven't seen them. But I blame these for what was going to happen. I thought I would have my own kind of moment like that, you know. In the moment, I thought, wow, wouldn't it be cool if I could say that I pet a raccoon? So I stopped in my tracks, and this hallmate just kind of stopped with me, not really sure why. And then she took a step back because she kind of saw what was about to happen. So as I stopped, the raccoon noticed me, and we kind of made eye contact. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, when I make eye contact with any animal, it's either I'm going to kill you or, hey, man, what's up? Unfortunately, I thought that I experienced the latter. And so I thought I saw my in, right? I thought that was the welcome that I needed to kind of approach. So I crouched down even further and I stuck on my hand. I mean, I guess I can't tell what's the difference between a raccoon and a dog, but I was crouched and I stuck on my hand and a raccoon started to inch towards me. And I said, oh my God, like this is actually going to happen. I can't believe I'm about to pet a raccoon. I wonder what it even feels like. All these thoughts were racing through my head. Is it going to be soft? Or is it like really rugged because they are dirty and they live outside? Am I going to have to clearly have to wash my hands? But I was ready, you know, like I was trying to beckon for it to come even closer because I was just so close. Well, as it's approaching me and all these thoughts are racing through my head, it gets about, I'd say, maybe 4 inches away. And then the next thing I know, I just hear this guttural sound, and it happened so fast. I didn't even see it happen. I heard the sound, and I felt my hand kind of tingle, and it kind of ran away. And so, in post, I got bit. Not my proudest moment. So I'm standing there, still kind of in a daze, until she kind of snaps me out of it, and she said, "Hey, like, are you okay?" I take a look at my hand, and I see a little bit of blood. I'm like, oh crap, it broke skin. Especially at the time, I didn't know what to do. And I was kind of hoping that she would get into mom mode as she normally did and, kind of be extra caring. But, and I can't blame her. At that point, she pretty much was done with me. So she said, let's just go back to the hall and see what the RA can help you out with. So I said, good idea. And we walked back. It wasn't too far of a walk back. But understandably, we didn't speak much. It was more of like me shuffling towards my hall with my eyes fixated on this cut that I'm not sure if it's going to kill me. And she's in her own world, getting ready to get back to her friends. So I step into the hall and I immediately start looking for my RA. For those of you who are not familiar, RAs are resident advisors. They're just students, but they get to live for free on campus by signing their life away and working horrible hours, doing things that no respectable human being should be forced to do, like making sure people don't hurt themselves by drinking too much and jumping off places where they shouldn't be in the first place. However, to be fair, all RAs are awesome. They all deserve love. They do amazing work, and most housing communities actually can't even function without them. So if you have one or you've had one, make sure you send tons of love all the time, or else I'm going to send you some love if you know what I mean. So anyway, I'm walking around the hall, I'm asking all my hallmates, hey, have you seen the RA? And no one knew where he was, but they said, what happened? So I said, yeah, I just kind of got bit by a raccoon. Haha, typical Mickey. No one really cared. Kind of hurt my feelings, but that's okay. That's in the past, and I grew from it. So I took it upon myself to get help instead, and I went straight for my friend Anthony's room. Anthony, if this ever makes it to you, you're a real one. Thank you. You practically saved my life, and I'm very grateful for you. I hope you're doing well. He is one of the most caring people I know to date. He's always going to ask you, what's going on in your life, and how are you doing. Very supportive and a good person. Last I talked to him, he was on track to become a nurse, which I think says a lot about his character, right? And well, lucky for him, I kind of gave him the experience earlier on by allowing him to be my nurse and help me to get to the ER before I passed out or did anything else even more stupid than that. And just because of the person he is, he absolutely took it upon himself to get me some help. It was probably like 11 o'clock at that time. He said, let's go. I'll get my keys, and we're out the door. On the way out, we actually ran into two more hallmates, two of the funnest girls in the hall. Shout out to April and Kelsey. They definitely made the whole ordeal a little bit more bearable. I remember driving to a number of places, all of which were closed, which, begs the question, how dare you call yourself a medical center if you can't help people with medical problems? But we eventually landed on Hogue, which is in Orange County. So I guess shout out to Hogue, not a sponsor. So I get out the car and I make my way up to the ER because, in my head, I'm about to die or explode at any moment, or maybe even go into a zombie-like state and bite a whole bunch of people. I guess that constituted an emergency for me. And I get in there, and it's rather empty. We probably got there at that point. It was nearing 1 o'clock. And we sat there, the four of us. Again, I can't understate how grateful I am for these kinds of friends in my life. Until 3:30 was when I finally heard my name being called. So I got ready to start to defend my actions as I went through the medical triage. So I started with a typical, what happened? Are you in pain? Can you describe on a scale of 0 to 10 and whatnot? And so I just let them know that I got bit by a raccoon. So at first, you could see these nurses are talking to themselves, and they were probably very concerned, right? There was certainly a sense of interest when it came to my case. I mean, naturally, they were probably thinking, what did you do that we can avoid doing so that we never have to experience such a dangerous stunt? So as you could imagine, it was fairly difficult to just kind of look them in the face and say, I tried to pet a raccoon and it bit me. When I did tell them, they were all pretty much done with me as well. So all the paperwork took quite a bit of time. In the end, I managed to speak with a doctor who then promptly told me that I was an idiot. And she said that she will not be giving me the vaccine for rabies because it was a provoked incident. And she would be more concerned if the raccoon came out of nowhere and was already aggressive and bit me. But since I tried to pet it, she didn't think that the raccoon was infected. She had also said how annoying the process would have been too. So for those of you who are unaware, rabies isn't just a one-time antidote that they can just inject you and you're good to go. It's actually a number of injections that they would have to do over time. And so even a small cut or bite mark as myself, a small incision, would have taken, I think she said 8 shots just all around the perimeter of the area of injury. And then I would have had to come back in a couple weeks, 2 to 3 more times to get the same treatment in order for the treatment to be effective at all. And seeing as it was because of stupid and not danger, she said that I'm probably going to be okay. And she just prescribed me antibacterial ointment so that it doesn't get any actual infections. It was probably 5 a.m. at the time, and I was over it. Part of me was like, I might die, excuse me, and you're being nonchalant about it. But I guess the rational side of me just wanted to go home. So I said thank you, and I just kind of left it at that, and we went home fairly upset that I spent so much time to get nothing. I mean, if I knew I wasn't going to get treated, I probably wouldn't have gone through the effort of wasting so much time in a room, and also to burden my friends, and kind of lose out on some respect and brownie points among them, because I mean, I level with everybody, and we all should know this. The more you ask for a favor, the less likable you become. Totally aware of that. And so, again, I want to reiterate, I am so thankful for these friends. So long story short, I got back to the dorms after leaving the hospital. At this point, the sun was up, and I very shortly after became rabid, and then I passed on. Yes, very unfortunate to hear. I bet y'all weren't expecting that part. So let's go ahead and take a moment of silence in solidarity for my loss of me. With all jokes aside, exit stage left. Thank y'all for coming to my TED Talk. That's all the time we have for today. So let's cut to the chase, because I'm not scared, I'm going to say it. I entertain you, and your job is to drop a like, a sub, maybe click the bell button, or follow me on Instagram or Twitter at justAWOL.outreach, all one word, no spaces. I'll make it easy for you, just check the description. It's free, and it's fast. It'll probably take you more effort to roll your eyes, but last but not least, it'll make you feel good. And you know what? It'll make me smile, and what comes around goes around. If you make me smile, I will DM you a smile right back. That's all we have for today, folks. Thank you for tuning in to Just a Walk of Life. I'm Mickey. I was your host. I'm making my own path out here, just like you all are. And if sharing can help you shape yours, I'm all for that. Take it easy, take care, and welcome to the AWOL, or rather, OWL nest.